We all know that motoring is gonna change. There's already a petrol ban being instated in 2030. I made an entire video on it, but today we're gonna take a look and speculate what the future is. Most people believe it's electric. But is it? Are there any better options? Well, that's exactly what we're gonna talk about today. First, let's look at the electric, since that is what most manufacturers seem to believe is the future. Now, all forms of propulsion have positives and negatives, so let's start with the positives of electric vehicles. Firstly, even though I don't want to admit it, petrol and diesel cars cause air pollution, so if all cars were electric, the air quality in cities would be better. Second benefit of electric cars is that there aren't a lot of moving parts, so there are way less points of failure. Services are less frequent. Third cool thing with electric cars are the engines are small and don't use up a lot of space, so manufacturers can get creative with the shape of their cars. Plus, it's possible to have multiple electric engines powering one car, and even having one engine per wheel. There are some electric cars that literally have 4 motors. And lastly, electricity can be a renewable source of power through wind, solar or water power. And if you like me and you love speed, electric cars are insanely fast because of the instant torque. They are insane from a standstill, but like I said, there are always negatives. So let's start with the biggest one, range. Let's compare a Tesla to a BMW sedan. The 330d has a range of around 593 miles or 954 kilometers. And when your fuel gets low, you stop at a gas station and 5 minutes later you can do another 600-ish miles. Where the Tesla has a claimed range of 402, but in reality you'll probably get closer to like 300, which is not bad, but that's with perfect driving. If you accelerate hard, that drops by a lot. And recharging takes around 5 hours. You can supercharge the car, and with 15 minutes of supercharging, that will give you around 160 miles, claimed. But again, chances are you won't get the full 160 out of that charge. In other words, a long journey is electric cars' kryptonite. Next problem, money. Electric cars tend to be expensive. Look, as we progress and technology gets better, electric cars should get cheaper, but as of now, they tend to be pricey. And like I said, there isn't many moving parts, and yes, that's good. The problem, however, is batteries don't last forever, and a new battery pack for a car would be quite expensive. And yes, this is not something that will go often, but when it goes, it's going to be insanely expensive. Next up, so it sounds that there's a lot of negatives. Next up is availability of charging stations. Not all countries are ready for electric cars, and even the countries that have charging stations have huge areas that still have none. But like I said earlier, as time goes on, hopefully this gets better. But for the immediate future, like 10 years from now, I don't think the entire world's gonna be ready for electric. Next problem, weight. Battery packs weigh a lot. A Tesla Model S P100D weighs around 5,000 pounds. At least the weight is low down, but a car that weighs over 2 tons will never handle like a sports car. And then lastly, electric cars aren't 100% green. You see, producing an electric car creates 68% higher manufacturing emissions compared to a combustion vehicle. In other words, producing electric cars has a negative effect on the environment. But on the long run, if you drive a lot, electric car is more environmentally friendly, but still this isn't the ultimate solution. But there are other options. Hydrogen. Now, there are people that believe hydrogen is the future, but is it? Let's look how possible it is for a future where cars run on water. Kind of. So how does hydrogen powered cars work? Well, the most common solution companies have at the moment is a hydrogen fuel cell paired with the electric power plant. I'm not going to go crazy in depth, but pressurized hydrogen gas mixes with oxygen, and that triggers an electrochemical reaction that produces energy, which in turn provides power to an electric power plant. In other words, an electric car that you don't need to charge. You fill it up like a petrol car, but you just don't fill it up with petrol, you fill it up with hydrogen. And they produce zero emissions, since the only byproduct with a hydrogen car is H2O. Again, we are at the very beginning of this technology, so we have negatives and positives. Let's talk range. The best hydrogen car at the moment can go around 330 miles on one tank, which is around 550 kilometers, which is not bad but not great either. But remember, there is no charge time, you just fill it up again. That is if you find a hydrogen fill-up station. Hopefully in the future there would be a few, because at the moment there's almost none. So far, hydrogen seems like a great future technology. I mean, all the pros of electric, but with none of the drawbacks except range. But that will increase over time, hopefully. You see, here is the problem with hydrogen cars. Hydrogen doesn't exist on Earth in its pure form, so we need to produce it. How do we do that? You need to separate the molecules of the water. The problem is the process of doing this uses a lot of energy, which makes hydrogen an expensive energy source. Plus, the process of separating it is only 75% effective, which means there's a loss of 25%, which even increases the cost more. But there's another way of getting hydrogen, through methane reforming. And this is the most common way of getting hydrogen at the moment. How do they do it? Through the process of natural gas, which isn't as expensive as electrolysis, which is the separation of the molecules, but as always downsides. This produces harmful byproducts named carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide. I'm not gonna go crazy in depth, but the process isn't green at all. Let me just leave it there. So for hydrogen to work, we need to improve with the process of separating the molecules of water. It's super clean and super green, but with the current technology it's just too expensive because methane reforming won't help the environment at all. And since petrol and diesel isn't an option, our only two options are electric and hydrogen, and we have only 10 years to improve on these technologies. What do you guys think? Will the future be electric or will it be hydrogen? Do you think the scientists will find a way to improve on the process of separating the molecules? I personally think hydrogen is the future, but they have to make it cheap enough for people to access. Let me know what you guys think of this. What do you think is the future? What do you think is going to happen with the motoring industry? I'll check you guys in the next one. Cheers,